Welcome to But Enough About Me, a podcast about other people. My name is Tyler Andrews. I'm a Nashville-based photographer, husband, and father. I'm trying to collect the stories of everyone around me, whether we're best friends or total strangers. I want to know what made you the person you are today.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. My name is Vivian. I'm helping out Daddy. Today's episode is a friend of my mom's. Like all of us, she has a twisty, windy road. She is funny and smart, and she exactly knows what she wants to be when she grows up. Ladies and gentlemen, Sally Beasley.
Sally, thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
What's your story? That sounds so weird. Let me say that again.
It does. I'm some kind of freak.
I know. What's your deal?
I don't know.
How did that happen? Sally, when were you born?
January 13th, 1978.
Nice.
On Friday the 13th. That should explain it. And we can go home now.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
That's all you need to know.
Okay. Well, it was fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Where were you born?
Washington, D.C.
So whereabouts in Washington?
Well, we lived in Alexandria, Virginia, which is literally you just cross the river.
Right.
I was born at Walter Reed Army Medical.
Is that because your dad served?
Yes, my dad. Army. For 20 years? Yes.
And where was he? I mean, how long had he been in when you were born?
So he was drafted when he was 18 for Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
So I was born in 78. I have to think about it.
Late 60s,
yeah.
early 70s?
Yeah.
So he'd been there, 8-10 years at that point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And he liked it enough to stay in?
I mean, I think so. I guess he just didn't. I feel like he's from a small town with not a lot of options. So I felt like maybe that was his only option.
Oh, okay.
At the time. So he was drafted and then he was like, well, I'm just going to make a career out of it.
Was he doing, he did well, I assume?
Yeah.
That makes sense. You get in there and you see some success.
Yeah.
Tell me about your mom.
My mom and dad were together when they were like 13 years old.
Oh my.
Yeah. So they were together for a long time. And they lived in Austin, Indiana.
And so they met in school, obviously,
yes.
At 13?
Yes. And then my mom was a child of, okay, let me count, 11 or 12.
Siblings.
Siblings, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's a big family.
Yes.
Where was she in the family lineup?
The baby.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. So she was kind of spoiled in that sense. My grandmother had, 3 husbands.
Oh.
So some of them have different fathers.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. She was born in like old days, right?
Right.
Like farming and that kind of thing.
You make babies because you need help on the farm.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Snap those green beans, for sure.
So she was the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And then your dad, where was he in his family?
So my dad, he has 3 brothers. And he is, he has a baby brother. So he's right before that baby brother.
Okay. So he's third.
Yes, third.
Were they close? Do you know?
Growing up?
Yeah.
They fought a lot. My grandmother, my dad's mother, Imogene, had a very interesting kind of life.
Yeah.
She married at a young age, which is common.
Sure.
And then the guy that she married, she had 3 sons with.
Okay.
And he took off and left her with 3 sons. She got help from her sisters and her father. Along the way, met another man named Logan, whom my oldest son is named after.
Okay, cool.
And he came in and raised the 3 boys, and then they had another boy with the 2 of them.
Got it. So that would have been in the late 50s?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And was that all in Indiana?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
Which is it's crazy to think about. Like, I can't imagine the judgment she got. You know what I mean? Like, just the harsh judgment of you're a mother of 3 and where's the husband?
Right.
They both of my parents come from a very broken environments.
Mm-hmm.
So
when did they get married?
my mom and dad,
Mhm.
it was right before he got drafted. I was
Okay.
just telling this story to someone at when I was volunteering tonight.
Yeah.
So my dad was 18 and my mother was let me think. So she was 17,
Uh-huh.
and she graduated college, or not college, sorry, high school,
Mm-hmm.
and she wanted to go to be an artist.
Mhm.
And then my dad got drafted, and then they got married because of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are they still together?
No.
Okay.
They were married 25 years,
Yeah.
and they got a divorce.
Okay.
I was in 7th grade.
Yay.
Yeah. Awkward.
Yeah. We'll get there. Where were you in the family line?
I'm the baby.
Okay.
So
And-
I just have a sister.
Okay.
She's 5 years older than I am.
What's her name?
Julie.
So your dad's in the Army,
Mm-hmm.
and what did your mom do anything other than being a mom?
So she stayed at home with us, but then she did like part-time jobs to help bring in extra income.
Side work and stuff.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Were you around? I guess Vietnam ended before
Yes.
you were
It did. Mhm.
born.
But my sister was alive. And my sister and my mom went to Thailand.
Wow.
Yes.
That's pretty crazy.
Yes.
Does she remember it?
My sister, no.
Nah.
But my mom,
Yeah.
man, she could tell you all kinds of stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun. Very cool. Okay. What was life like in the house? What were the dynamics?
I mean, my parents argued a lot.
Yeah.
They fought a lot. So it wasn't a per se abusive,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it was very turmoilish
Mhm.
because they fought a lot. And my mom, I mean, of course, because, they come from broken backgrounds, both of them. Like my dad's dad ran off, and then at 13, another man stepped in. And eventually that relationship was beautiful. It ended up to be beautiful, but it took time.
Right.
And then my mom, 12 kids, and then all kinds of abuse on her side. So physical and sexual, all
Wow.
that. So when you bring those two people together, they're going to have issues because they didn't ever really work on their issues.
Yeah.
And then my dad, when he came back from Vietnam, my mom said a lot of times that he was he was there, but he wasn't.
I know that's obviously been a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
Did you? I mean, I guess you didn't know him before,
No.
but could you tell? Were there times that you were able to tell?
No, what's so weird is my dad was always the calm one,
Mm-hmm.
unless you had pushed him to the point of, like, he broke.
Yeah.
And would get very angry, and he would become the drill sergeant type. My mom was the one that would lose it a lot. So
tense in the house.
yes.
What was your relationship with your sister like?
We fought. I mean, we were 5 years apart. So, by the time she's in high school, I'm in 7th grade. And so we're worlds apart.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And so we had that dynamic. And then our parents fought. So,
So it's just a tense household.
yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately. And that's so sad to say, but that's just how it was.
Yeah.
There were very many happy memories, though.
Sure. You're not. I know you're not saying that it was hell on earth. You're just that's the dynamic of the household.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys go to church?
No.
Okay.
No. So we moved every probably 3 years. We would move to a new place. And I'm sure that played a role in the dynamics of the family. And my mom, I don't think was equipped to handle that.
Yeah.
I just don't think so.
That's a pretty rare person that I think is. I mean, that's a rough life.
Yeah.
Where all did you live?
So Washington, D.C., Virginia. We went back to Virginia, but it wasn't in the Alexandria area. It was in Bocosin.
Okay.
And then Oklahoma, Tennessee, Hawaii.
That's fun.
Yeah. So when my dad, let me get this right. When my dad came back from Vietnam, it was like maybe 75, I want to say. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was born, and then we got stationed immediately to Hawaii. So right when I was born,
Oh, wow.
we moved to Hawaii.
Okay. Oh, geez.
So I pretty much stayed there until I was 4 years old.
Okay.
So, and I remember it vividly.
Do you really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
I remember we used to go to this little a beach called Diamond Head,
Okay.
and I can remember it like it was yesterday.
That's awesome.
I can remember the water, the way it looked, and I can remember boogie boarding with my dad. And I was like 3 years old at the time, and I can still remember that. I can remember the big leaves that were there and how it rained all the time.
Have you been back since?
No, but it's a goal.
That's awesome.
For sure.
That's super cool.
And we lived on the base, obviously, and it was called Fort Schaffner, and it was inside of a volcano crater.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That is pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were going to school, did you go to school on base most of the time?
No. So when we lived in Virginia, I did not go to school on the base because we did not live on the base.
What do you remember about elementary school?
Nothing. No, I mean, I did a little bits and pieces of it, but not a lot.
What about middle school?
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
So in between moving,
Mm-hmm.
we would come back here to visit because my mom's mother was here in Tennessee. And so we would always come back here to visit.
Okay.
And then in between living in different states, we lived in Tennessee. I was in, second grade and fourth grade. And then we finally moved back here for good when I was in seventh grade.
Okay. In Clarksville or whereabouts?
No, in Murfreesboro.
Really?
Yeah. Because that's the year my parents got a divorce.
Oh.
So my mom came back here to Murfreesboro because her mother lived here.
Right.
And we had always come back to Murfreesboro to visit because
Mm-hmm.
her mother lived here. And so she knew this town pretty well.
Yeah. How old were you? Was that 11,
12, 13, yeah.
What do you remember about that?
I mean, I think that's probably some of the hardest years, 7th until high school. You know, it's hard anyway.
Yes.
But then throw in the mix that you have parents that are divorcing, and this was what, 80s? And I don't think divorce was very common. You know, I don't think it was like exploding like it did in the 90s, and so when you come from that kind of family, especially at that time, Murfreesboro was a very small community.
Yeah.
It was not like it is today.
Well, and Southern.
Right.
Yeah.
And back, no. I shouldn't say that. That's very wrong.
You were going to say Bible Belt.
Yes. Yes.
Well, you're talking about the city as it was 30 years ago.
Yes.
So it's fine.
It like everybody knew everybody.
Yeah.
So, everybody knew that because my mom, like I said, we had come back here, like I went to second grade here and fourth grade here, and then seventh grade I finished, I did college, high school.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everybody knew what happened, and so it just was awkward.
What was that? I mean, what happened? Just that the divorce happened? You guys had moved here? Or?
Yeah, and that we were, like, our dad was he was in Germany at the time, so. Like,
oh, wow.
They were like, "Where's your dad?" I don't know, somewhere in Germany. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to be like, what does he do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Especially as in seventh grade.
Right.
That's not easy.
And then and then my mom had to find a full-time job, so our dynamics changed 100%. My mom
Yeah.
was no longer there. on a part-time, like, because she worked part-time jobs and she was gone. She had to work
Yeah.
like 40 hours.
Yeah.
And so that changed for us. And then my sister, would become the caregiver for me.
Right.
So.
Which I'm sure she loved.
Yes. Oh, yes. She loved it.
How did she deal with, because it's rough when you're moving in elementary school and middle school, but it's really rough when you're moving in high school.
So before my parents just said, this is it, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
My dad wanted us to go to Germany with him. And so I don't know if you know anything about Germany during this time, but the Berlin Wall was coming down.
Yep.
Or there was tensions, and then it came down not too long after that. And my mom didn't want to go. My dad apparently wanted her to come to kind of salvage their marriage. And my mom was like, no, I'm done.
Wow.
And I mean, she had every right to be that way. I mean, he cheated on her, and he'll tell you that.
Wow.
And so, but she's not without fault either.
Sure. No, that's not how marriage works.
No.
Yeah.
So she was just done.
Mm-hmm.
She was just tired of it. And my dad, unfortunately, got mixed up in some things that weren't healthy.
Mm.
And I get it now, though. Like, on the other side of it, as a kid, I didn't understand it. But now, on the other side of it, I get it. He has war issues.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So you moved to Murfreesboro,
Mm-hmm.
and your grandmother was here,
Mm-hmm.
your mom's mom, and she's the one that had did you say 11?
12 or 11 kids. I don't know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you see them? Were they in and out of town? Did they come around?
So most of them lived here in Murfreesboro, or Walter Hill, or in Las Casas.
Wow.
So they were all pretty close. But like I said, my mom's family was very dysfunctional.
Sure.
Most of her brothers were alcoholics. And then, so she had 2 sisters out of that bunch, and the rest were her brothers. So there were 3 girls, the rest brothers.
Okay.
And
wow, that's
yeah.
a lot of boys.
Yes, and they all were just. I mean, it was just totally dysfunction. So yeah, we did see them, but it always felt like there was something going on. So we would go to visit, and then something would happen, and be like, "Oh my gosh, someone has a gun." You know what I mean? No, you don't. But
I thought it was just that Steve was angry at Andy, not that.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was always full of drama. Just someone was drunk, someone got mad, and it's just.
So family was not a refuge. Nobody was stepping in to be a surrogate dad or anything like that.
No, not at all. Okay. I mean, one of my uncles we were close with, and he was a pretty good guy. I mean, we spent a lot of time with him, but he wasn't like stepping in to, like raise us.
Sure.
So my dad was in Germany. My mom was here. Like, my dad would not send us any money. This is my mom's side. And it just caused tension and tension and tension and tension and tension. And so their divorce was finalized in 92.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It took a minute.
Yes. Because there was just so much.
Yeah, back and forth.
Strife. And it wasn't pretty. And then they couldn't stand each other.
Yeah.
So my dad was a big chunk of my life, of that hard time of 8th grade to 10th grade. He was not around. And that's not knocking him.
No.
Like, I understand, because it was crazy. Like, it was like my dad went to jail because my mom called the cops on him several times.
Oh, gosh.
Like, my mom pulled a gun on my dad. And, those things, he was just better to be away because there was so much bitterness and hate.
Yeah. Man, that's awful.
Yeah. Yeah. But then I guess I was around maybe 15. And my dad started to come around. So it took that long to kind of for my mom to simmer down and for him to simmer down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did your sister move out and go to college, or what happened there?
No, she you asked me about how that affected my sister. She was angry because she wanted to go to Germany, but we didn't. And what she wanted to do was finish high school
Mm-hmm.
and then go live with my dad. But then that didn't happen. So
Right.
she ended up finishing high school here at Oakland. So.
Oh, okay. So your dad started coming around, and you got to see him more.
Mm-hmm.
So is that how life in high school finished out?
Yeah, it gets even more difficult though because so my dad came back around when I was 16, thereabouts. And then when I was 18, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer.
Ooh.
So my dad kind of came back and was trying to help us because that's at the time that she was diagnosed. My mom and dad they were smokers. And so my mom obviously got lung cancer from that. And so by the time they caught it, and this is common with lung cancer, it was like stage 4. And it was in her right lung, and it was like a 5/7 mass.
Oh, man.
So the prognosis was very poor. So my dad kind of came back and stepped in and kind of helped a little bit, but that ended up badly as well because there were still so many unresolved issues between the two of them.
Yeah.
It's really sad though because here's the thing. They loved each other.
Yeah.
They never remarried. And my mom dated like one guy. My dad never dated anybody after they got a divorce.
Wow.
And so
That's very rare.
yes. And it's like oil and water. They just don't mix. But they love each other. So
I haven't asked you anything about school specifically. Were you a good student? Did you like school?
no.
Okay. All right.
As most divorced kids struggle.
Fair enough. All right. So you finished school. Did you have aspirations beyond that?
Yes. So in high school, I wanted to be a marine biologist. And then I will never forget this. I was close to graduating, and a guidance counselor, they pull you in your office and ask you, what do you want to do? Yada, yada, yada.
Right.
And I told him I wanted to be a marine biologist. And his response was, well, you have to make good grades. It's like, what's that supposed to mean? I mean, I wasn't an F student,
Right.
but I wasn't a straight A student
Right.
either. And so that kind of squashed that.
It's nice of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so at 18, you didn't go to school to be a marine biologist?
Well, that's when my mother was diagnosed.
Sick, right.
Right. And I wanted to go to college, but I was torn because my mom was sick and I didn't want to leave her, but I wanted to go to college. So I decided that I would go to MTSU. At that point in time, when I got accepted, I decided to move out.
Okay.
And that wrecked my mother because at the time, I was the only one home. My sister is, 5 years older. She's on her own. She's been on her own for a while.
Mm-hmm.
She's in college too, and
Was she at MTSU?
Yes.
Okay.
So she was going for nursing, and she was working as a phlebotomist, and so she was doing her thing, but I was the one at home, and my mom, it just devastated her. And I was 18. I did not have the capacity to think along those lines.
Right.
I do now.
Yeah.
But so it ended in a very torn relationship.
How'd your mom do?
I mean, her oncologist said, if you do chemo, you have 6 months to live. If you do radiation, that will give you a year. And if we remove the mass, that part of that lung, you could possibly have 5 years, but I'm not going to guarantee that.
Wow.
And so my sister and I were preparing for her to die. Honestly, we did not think that she would live past any of those things.
Sure.
So she had like an ungodly amount of chemo, probably, I want to say 33 radiation treatments,
Oh,
and then the removal of her lung. And so she actually went into remission.
so is she still around?
No,
Okay.
she passed away 6 months ago.
Oh, that's right.
7 months ago. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
still,
Yeah. So she was in remission for 22 years.
that's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. And it came back. I mean, it came back. Unfortunately, that's the lung cancer is, I'm going to say it, is a bitch. It just
Yeah.
comes back.
Yeah.
And you don't know when, but you know it's going to come back. And when it comes back with a vengeance. And I'm sorry. And so when they found spots on her lung again, it just, like, we just weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
Because you think 22 years,
Right.
you're going to get to see your 70s and 80s.
Right.
Her oncologist, whom she's saw for 20 years, wanted, the fear was that it would metastasize, and so to kind of head that off, to do chemo. And my mom, from prior chemo and radiation, had issues, like she didn't have a thyroid, and the chemo that she was given 22 whatever years ago made her explode, like, in weight wise.
Oh, okay.
And she became diabetic.
Oh my gosh.
And so the saving her life part did not come without some consequences.
Sure.
And her liver, 7 months ago, her liver was failing, and her oncologist checked it and made sure that he could do chemo, and I thought everything was good. And I went to that appointment with my mom and had all kinds of discussions. It was about an hour long.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, chemo, you just don't know kind of how. So she died from a sudden cardiac arrest. So my sister and I think the chemo, her heart just couldn't take it.
Yeah. I'm really sorry.
It's really hard.
Okay. 22 years ago, you were at school.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say you were studying?
I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Well, I know, but is that what you went to school for?
Yes. And then I was going to transfer. I started out with biology.
Okay.
And then I was going to transfer to Florida.
Okay.
But then, you see, God has other plans for you. You think you have it all planned out. And then God says, bingo, no, you don't.
Okay. So what happened?
Well, I got pregnant.
Okay.
And that changed everything.
I assume the relationship was pretty serious?
No.
Oh, no.
No. We dated probably 3 months, and then I got pregnant. And he broke up with me before I even had a chance to tell him that I was pregnant.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you know as he was breaking up with you?
No, I didn't. Because he broke up with me in December, and I didn't know until it was January.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was fun. This was before text, too.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't text him.
You would text him, hey, you're a dad?
Heck yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Oh.
No, I wouldn't.
Gosh. I assume you told him?
I did. We both agreed that an abortion would be the best decision. Now, mind you, I was not a believer during this time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that played a big role in my decision making.
So so you found out in January.
So when I found out, I called him and told him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I'm going to have an abortion. And I've already called Planned Parenthood.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how much it costs, but I need help with funds. And he said, well, I can't help you right now, but when you get it done, I'll give you the money.
So just put it off?
No, I got the money. I will never forget this. It was $345. And the only reason why I remember that was because it was 345. I decided to have it done.
What was that decision process like?
Okay, so this is pre-internet.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that it wasn't anything, that it's just cells.
Right.
There's not a human form.
Mm-hmm.
So it was emotionally tearing because I didn't know, I couldn't imagine doing something like that because that was never on my radar.
Right.
I had never met anybody that had an abortion because women don't talk about it.
Sure.
And I didn't know anything.
So it wasn't emotionally challenging from the sense of what am I doing to this life inside of me?
Correct.
It was, this is not my vision of who I am.
This is not my plan.
Right.
I have to transfer schools. I'm going to be a marine
Oh,
biologist.
wow.
I'm not going to have a baby.
Okay.
I do not want children.
Okay.
And it wasn't even, like you said, it just wasn't, it was a decision. This is what I have to do.
Mm-hmm. So it was a relatively quick decision.
Right. In that moment.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment. So I called Planned Parenthood because at the time there was Planned Parenthood and then there was Women's Health, whatever. So those are the only two abortion providers. And now it's just Planned Parenthood in Nashville. But I called and I set up an appointment over the phone and printed out my directions.
Yeah. Oh, man. Printing out directions.
Yes.
I was just talking to my kids about that.
They know nothing. And so I went, and I don't remember seeing Planned Parenthood anywhere, honestly. This is 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so you walk into the building,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't just walk in. You have to hit the buzzer and they buzz you up. So you go upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you walk in, it's like a normal doctor's office.
Mm-hmm.
But the women were behind a bulletproof glass. And she spoke, she pushed a button to speak. And she's like, what are you here for? And I told her, and I said, I have an appointment. Here's my name. Here's my driver's license. Here's the cash. Kind of that's how it worked.
Yeah.
And then the receptionist said, okay, have a seat. You'll be called back. Well, no one told me that they have these things that you have to do before you actually have an abortion. And no one told me anything. All I knew is I was going there to have an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
No one sat down and said, here's the steps, here's what's going to happen. And so you're sitting there and you're waiting for your name like you would at a doctor's office.
Right.
And then when your name is called, you think, okay, this is it. But it's not. So you go back, and then the first thing I think they did is I got my blood drawn. And then they send you back to the waiting room. Yeah. And then you have to wait for your name to be called again, because then you get an ultrasound. And I didn't know that.
Was that because of legal requirements, or was that Like a health thing that they did?
I think to see how far along you are.
Oh, okay.
Because, like, they draw the blood to see if indeed you're pregnant.
To confirm that you're pregnant. Right.
And then when you're confirmed, then they need to see how far along you are, because there's certain ways.
Changes the procedure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when I went into the ultrasound, this lady, I don't remember her name, but I can see her face, like clear as day. She said, okay, we're going to do an ultrasound. And I had never had one, so I didn't know,
Right.
I was 20 years old.
Why would you have had an ultrasound?
Yeah. She said, okay, I'm going to put this, whatever, I don't know what it's called, transdermal, I don't know, something.
Wand.
Yes, something. And I'm going to put it over your stomach, and I need to take measurements. I was like, okay. And so the screen, and you know this because you're a father, the screen to see the baby was turned away from me. I couldn't see it. Something inside me just said, I want to see that.
Yeah.
What is it? And I asked her, I said, can I see that? Can I see the ultrasound? And she put her hand in my hand and she said, we're not supposed to show you, but I will show you. And she turned the screen around, and I just lost it. At that point in time, you asked me the emotional decision. That's when it became real and became like, what in the world? That's not nothing. Because at that point in time, I could see the flicker of the heart, and it just wrecked me. I just came unglued. I started crying, and she put her hand on my hand, and she held it, and she grabbed my hand, and then she got what she needed, and then I went back into the waiting room, and by this time, I'm already struggling, and my sister went with me, so I had my sister with me, and in the waiting room, you can hear what sounds like a vacuum. It didn't dawn on me what it was until I came back from the ultrasound and I heard it, and I looked at my sister and I said, I don't know if I can do this. And she didn't want me to do it at all. And she hugged me. And then the last thing you do is talk to a counselor there. And that's what before you actually have the procedure. And so my name gets called again, and then I go back into a counselor's office. This man's name was Jack, and he was an older gentleman. And I walk in, and he has a desk, and he has 2 chairs where you would sit down. And I walk in, and before I even sat down in the chair, he said, you don't want to do this. It's written all over your face. He said, go get your money back. And I was like, huh? I can do that? And he was like, absolutely. And we talked about it. We went into like the hows, the whys, if I could do this, do I have support, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just totally believe that man was like, that's God. Like, that was God.
That does not seem like something I would expect at a Planned Parenthood clinic.
No, and I wasn't a believer then, but over the years, I look back and I go, my goodness.
Yeah.
He was there in that room with those people. And you hear terrible stories about Planned Parenthood, but that's not my story.
Yeah.
And we talked for probably 30 to 40 minutes. And he walked me to the front off, the receptionist, and he said she would like her money back.
Yeah.
And they gave me my money back. And my sister was still waiting in the waiting room. And after that, I went up to her and, like, we just hugged each other. Like, it was just such an overwhelming relief that wasn't going to be something I did. And not that there's any condemnation on women that have.
Right. Yeah.
Because the struggle of how am I going to afford this? How am I going to raise this child? That's real. That's real.
For sure.
We left, my sister and I left, and that was that. And I will never forget that man, ever. And the people that were in that waiting room, I can still see their faces. And now, 20 years removed, it just, like, how could I even think that was the right thing to do?
Did you tell the dad?
I did. It was, I think, a couple of days later that I told him that I didn't do it. And at that point, he just didn't want anything to do with it. And I'm not mad about it. At the time, I was, how could you,
Sure.
But at 20 years old, telling your parents was just as hard.
Yeah.
Just as hard. Because my mom had been in remission probably 6 or 7. Because I was in 99. No, sorry. Yeah, it was 99. So she had just been in remission for probably maybe 7, 8 months. Not very long.
As far as you knew, living on borrowed time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, telling her was hard. And then my dad was the last to know, and that just infuriated him because he was like, how can I be the last one to know?
Yeah.
And at that point in time in my life, I was probably closer to my father at that time because he was helping me. Like he had paid rent for my sister and I to live in a house together or an apartment or whatever. And so like he was helping me through college. And so he was just frustrated. Like, how can you tell me last? Because we were I was closer with him at that time than my mother.
So if you guys were not raised religious or in any kind of faith, was there a sense of morality that you had disappointed?
Yes.
Was there? Okay.
Yeah. And I think that just came from his
just traditional upbringing.
Right.
Yeah.
Now his family, his mom and dad, they were Christians.
Okay.
So, he had that kind of foundation, but he didn't invest in it.
It wasn't his.
Mm-hmm. And my mother, I mean, she was, Church of Christ, I think they were. So a lot of her belief was you do good work and that's how you get to heaven. But then when they got married, that wasn't a part of their foundation for us.
Right. So then you had a baby.
I had a baby. I did. I was 21.
Did you finish school?
Yes. And in between that time frame of when I was pregnant with Logan, I was still going to school, but then I changed my major.
Okay.
Because I realized that I can't have a baby and move away. I'm just not that strong enough.
Well, I mean, that kind of support is
yes,
pretty necessary. And
so I changed it to, I just by chance had taken a hypers class. I don't think they call that anymore. It's like an elective, class.
Okay.
And it was an outdoor recreation class.
Oh, okay.
I was like, wait, you can major in this? This is a real major? Like, I can do this for my living? I'm like, yes. And I just fell in love with it. It became like a huge passion for me. So I changed majors in between that time that I gave birth.
And I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What is it? What is your dream job?
A park ranger.
I love that so much.
I'm going to be Leslie Knope, man.
She sits at a desk. She's not a park ranger.
But she runs the show. I mean, Ron does, but does he really? She was the one that ran it.
He tries to run it into the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. So Logan was born,
and
then you had 2.5 years more school. Were you able to go back full time and finish out quickly, or how'd that work?
I did. My mom helped me with him a lot. She watched him while I went to class, and because in that time frame, she was in remission, and she was trying to get disability because she had no stamina.
She had one lung.
Mm-hmm. And she eventually got it,
Mhm.
but she was at home during that time. And so she watched him, and I mean, I probably couldn't have finished school without her and my father, like, stepping up and just, like, my dad was the financial background
Right.
backer,
Yeah.
and then my mom was the one that helped me raise Logan.
That's awesome.
So,
So then what happened?
his father did eventually become involved,
Oh, cool.
but it was a it was just a cluster, man. There's
Yeah.
no other way to say it. It was just a hot mess. When I told him that I did not have an abortion, he wanted nothing to do with it.
Right.
My mom and dad were upset, and they felt like he should be responsible and help support this child.
Sure.
And they were pressuring me to notify his parents. So I did what any 1999 kid would do. I wrote a letter to his parents.
Oh, man.
And they got it. And Logan's dad's father called our house, and my mom answered. And oh gosh, it was just a mess from there. No, I don't have a grandchild. Your daughter's lying.
Oh, my gosh.
And so we went to court. He said he told his parents that he didn't know me and that he had never had sexual relations with me.
Oy.
So they hired an attorney, and I hired an attorney. And it was a mess
Yeah.
for 18 years. But,
Man. So you finished school,
and
then you went to work as a park ranger?
no, I
No.
wish.
What'd you
It
do?
never happened. I don't know if it will ever happen either.
It'll happen.
I worked in college.
Mhm.
I was able to get a job at Barfield Crescent Park.
Yes.
So I worked at the wilderness station. I did program coordinating there.
So you were a park ranger.
Pretty much, but I didn't carry a gun or anything.
Well, but is that what you want?
I don't know. I'm conflicted about that, very much so. And then I got an internship out at Warner Park
Okay.
at the nature center. So I was a naturalist there. And so I did that, and then I thought a job was waiting for me, but then a hiring freeze happened in Metro government.
Mm.
So they couldn't hire me after my internship.
Ugh.
And I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And so I graduated in 2003.
What job did you eventually get?
I took several different jobs. I worked as a teller at SunTrust,
Yes.
and I hated it.
Yeah.
I quit that, and then I became a YMCA site director
Okay.
for after school.
Yep.
And that was part-time. And so things kind of changed my life. A 5-year relationship that I was in was ending, and I needed a full-time position. And a mom that when I worked at YMCA, a mom kind of knew the story that was happening, my story, what was going on at the time, because I was completely blindsided by it. Like, we built a house. Like, what?
Oh, wow.
What's happening? I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I have nowhere to go. And in between this time, this relationship, we had dated in high school as well. So we knew each other fairly well. And I was working at YMCA part-time, and then one of the children's mother knew the whole story and offered and told me to go apply at State Farm. And that's when I went to go apply at State Farm.
There's a huge, is it regional?
Yes, it's a big
office.
Yes, it's huge. And so I did, and I got hired on. She was a manager, and so she just put in a good,
Yeah.
So I got hired on, but in that time frame of being hired on, man, I was just a mess.
Yeah.
Emotionally and mentally, because we had I had all these plans of like how it was going to be. And we were meant to be together. This was the second time we dated. This is it.
Right.
Um,
How'd Logan deal with it? How was that for him?
Man, it just tore him up. And then that just tore me up inside because I was like, how do you tell a 5-year-old you can't see this father anymore, pretty much, you know? And it just wasn't, because he was dating someone else.
Yeah.
And I could not put myself in that hurt.
No.
Because it hurt so much. And I was very bitter and very angry.
Yeah.
And so I began to drink pretty heavily.
Okay.
So
I guess it got out of hand.
yes. Yeah.
What did that look like?
Oh man, I was a hot mess. I don't even know. I tell my husband all the time, I don't know how I did not get a DUI. I cannot comprehend that.
What did you drink?
Oh, anything, everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Not picky.
No. I mean, it was binge like every weekend or every other weekend, because that's when Logan would go to his father. So I had that time to sit and think about the hurt, and I didn't want to think about it.
Wow.
So.
How long did it take for you to realize you had a problem?
I guess I woke up in my bathtub.
Oh.
And I didn't know how I got there or how I got home or where my car was.
Oh my gosh.
And it scared me.
That seems appropriate.
But I continued on the course.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway. And it wasn't until I was working at State Farm and while working there was this guy that would like hold the door for me in the mornings, and I was like, why is he holding the door for me? Like, who is this guy? Like, what? And I just couldn't understand that. And so eventually we would end up dating the guy that would hold the door for me. And the how about it is crazy. It like we had a mutual friend, and I was like, hey, you know this guy, and I think he looks very nice, and he was nothing that I would ever go for. But him holding the door for me, just something about that, and his demeanor and his mannerisms just seemed totally different. And the mutual friend was like, oh, you don't want to date him. He's religious. It's like, what do you mean he doesn't drink? He said no.
Wow.
I was like, oh, okay. Ugh. But then, like, something just would not let that go in my heart. And I would tell my cubicle buddy, hey, the guy held the door for me again. You know? She was like, who is he? And I was like, I don't know, but he's just really nice. And she was like, okay, I'm going to find out who he is. So she found out his alias, instant messaged him, and said, hey, my coworker thinks you're really cute and would like to go. Would you instant message her and talk to her? And he responded, I don't know. I think I know who you're talking about, but I don't know if I will. He did. Like 5 minutes later, I got an instant message, and I was like, oh my gosh, he instant messaged me. What? And we just started talking that way.
Uh-huh.
That's how we met. And at the time, I was still in that drunken, hot mess of a person. And I just wasn't, I don't know what I was looking for. I wasn't expecting anything.
Okay.
I don't know if I said this, but throughout the time frame of my life, I was an atheist. Like, I didn't think that it was like, there's nothing. Mm-hmm. There's nothing out there.
Yeah.
There's nothing. And so I was an atheist party girl. He was a Christian. He lived in Murfreesboro his whole life kind of dude. And I tell everyone this, like, it just felt like something was on my back pushing me towards him. And I was like, get off of my back. Like, what do you want? What is this? And we messaged and we went on a date on, I think it was February 7th. And that was it.
Wow.
I knew on that date that this is the man that I'm going to marry.
Wow.
And he'll tell you the same, even though he took him forever to get to that point.
Well, yeah, it's
Not forever, a year, 9 months, whatever.
that's not forever.
Felt like it. In a girl's heart, it feels like forever.
9 months.
Yes.
That's not that long at all.
You want to know?
Well, fair enough.
Well, I told, and the first date, gosh, our cards were just out there.
Yeah.
Like, he told me things, and he wasn't the person that my friend had made him out to be at all. Now, granted, in our dating time, there were hot arguments about abortion
Sure.
because I didn't understand at that time because I wasn't a believer,
Yeah.
and many other things,
Yeah.
that are hot button issues.
Did you feel, was it because you felt judged about what might have happened or what you were willing to do?
No, he's not like that at all. I just was very firm on what I believed and the walls that I had up.
Yeah.
I was very firm in that. I'm a woman. I can do it. Don't tell me. Watch me. You know what I mean?
Leslie Knope.
Yes. Yes.
Got it.
It's still there.
Yep.
It has to be subdued sometimes. And I have to go, oh, I got to be careful here. But he was a very straight-laced person, and I was not.
Yeah.
We came from totally different backgrounds.
Yeah.
His parents have been married his whole life, still are married. My parents are a hot mess,
Right.
or were a hot mess, and divorced and chaotic, and, so stability versus unstable come together, and he is the reason why I'm a believer. Because for so long, and I know you've heard this, many people think Christians are a bunch of hypocrites, and they're liars, and they're whatever,
Yeah.
And that was my stance.
Yeah.
Until I met him.
Mm.
And I was like, no, this dude's the real deal. Like, he is the real thing. He is not a BSer. And, I mean, it took months for me to become, a believer. And I got baptized. And, it took a while to get there.
Yeah.
But there were many 2:00 a.m. conversations about why I felt this way. And he never did it at an angle of, you're wrong, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
It was a very different angle that I never experienced because, walking through unwed mother, being from a broken home, you get all kinds of things thrown at you.
Oh, I'm sure.
Here in this lovely Bible Belt. And I mean, even in college, people were like, you're not married and you're pregnant? And I'm just like, what? No, I'm not. And so you get those things.
Well, and this isn't, I mean, that was in 99, 2000.
Yeah.
Like, this is not the dark ages.
Right.
This isn't 1955.
Right.
Man.
But that mentality is deep here.
Yeah.
And there was no condemnation from him. There was no judgment. It was just a conversation of, why do you feel that way? What happened along the way to get you to this point of where you're so, like, these are my walls and you better not take them down.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
What are you afraid of?
Death.
Really?
Yes. My kids finding me dead. Because that's what death does to you. It, like, picks you up, shakes you, and everything that you felt was secure and solid feels like you're on unstable ground. Like there's cracks everywhere.
Yep.
And I don't think it necessarily is my faith that I don't trust. It's just so final. That's it. In this world.
Right.
So death, 100%. And I know we shouldn't be afraid of death as Christians. I know that. But it's hard not to be you know? And I found my mother dead. And so that plays a role in that too. And it just totally shakes you up
Yeah.
and changes you all in 1 minute.
Yep.
It's like, when you're younger, you feel like it's like, oh, I can't wait till I'm 20 and you know what I mean?
Yep.
But now I'm just like, I just want to stay 41.
Yeah.
I don't want it to go anywhere else.
This is good. Can we just keep this for a while?
Yeah. And it makes you so afraid of losing other people. Like, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And I'm working through that. I mean, I'm seeing a counselor because of that. And anybody that has ever walked through that should 100% see a counselor.
I think anybody who has ever walked, as well as people who haven't walked, should all see counselors.
Yeah.
Free advice from me. Go see a counselor.
Mm.
What do you regret?
Not spending time with my mom. More time. I wanted nothing to be gone and away from her. But not spending that time. And I can't ever get it back.
Yeah.
And the thought of aborting my oldest son, I wish I could just kind of erase that. But then that's my story. And he knows that. Like he's at, like he knows that was part of,
Yeah.
And I can't imagine life without him.
Yeah.
Like he's my best friend on this side of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he's 20.
Yeah.
So he's my best friend.
I need him to get a little older because I'd love to hear
his perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would too. It would be very interesting. Because, and when I told him the story finally, and it happened because at church we wrote our story on one of the worship nights. We wrote our story. And he was coming to church with us, and I walked him over, and I said, "There's my story." And he read it.
How old was he?
He was 18, 19.
He'd never heard the story.
No.
Wow.
So I recently shared it with him. So, and that was so hard. I think I cried and hugged him, and I said, "I just want you to know that doesn't mean that I don't love you or that I never wanted you. It just meant that I had my back against the wall and I didn't know what to do."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wish more women would speak on this. Like, I wish. Even though I didn't go through with it, I'm sure it's very similar for the women that did go through with it, walking through that and feeling like I have no choices here.
Yeah. Who is God?
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's everywhere. Just look outside. I mean, look at trees. And you think, oh, what, it's a tree? No, each tree is different. And they all support different insects or look at the birds, or that's where I see him the most. Which is interesting because in the beginning of me doing outdoor recreation, I never would have equated God and nature together. So I think God is an amazing creator and an artist that tops Ansel Adams.
Be careful. Man. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
See? It's easy. You didn't know. Sally, my apologies for that unconventional intro, but it seemed only appropriate. Plus, I kept getting interrupted, and the only way this was going to get finished is if I just decided to incorporate my daughter instead of fighting with her. So, there you go, guys. That's Vivian. She is my youngest and has a lot to say. If you like this and you would like to know what Sally looks like, I would be honored if you would swing by our website. It is www.butenoughAbout.me. Again, that's www.butenoughAbout.me. You can see all of the portraits I've made of all of our guests there, as well as listen to the episodes directly or find links to your favorite podcasting apps all on there. In addition to that, you can message me through that website. Down toward the bottom, there's a spot where it says, I don't know, talk to me, send a message, something like that. It's a big empty box. You get the idea. Fill in your message, hit go, and it will email me directly. While you're there, don't forget to stop by and check out the links to my friends' websites, those being Mr. Jace Hackman, who did all of our bumper music, and Mr. Casey Jones, the designer that put together the logo and helps me maintain brand standards, because I learned what that was from him. In addition to the website, you can also connect with us through social media. Whether it's Facebook or Instagram, the URL is the same. In both cases, it is /ButEnoughAboutMePodcast. So just add that extra word on there and you'll get me. Okay, guys, I can't think of anything else that I absolutely need to tell you. So here we go. In the next 2 weeks, you have an assignment. Go find someone, buy them a cup of coffee or a glass of whiskey, and ask them to tell you their story. My name is Tyler Andrews, but enough about me. You look beautiful. I'm recording. I need you to go in. I'm recording for the podcast. No, but I have to record the before part and the after part by myself. Come here. Hey, come here. Come in. Close the door. You want to help me? Okay. Come here.